Cranidos, Rock Smash. This sound echoes against the crashing waves of the nearby waterfall as Rock's Cranidos jumps forward, slamming its head into the gut of Zubat, sending the small creature flying. As Cranidos lands back on the ground, it is almost assaulted by an Ice Fang from a Poacher. However, a command of Flame Burst saves Cranidos from the oncoming attack, as the ringing of a metal sound explodes all around them, as a Thunder Shock and Metal Sound combination from Sheldon and Luxray keep all Zubats at bay. Gary can feel the sweat running down his face as he gives the command to hit all of his Pokémon, the sheer size of this attack being enough to at least keep the boy on his toes and nearly off his feet. All the while he stares at the two men who started attacking them, shouting how the boy should hand over their fossil Pokémon. Since then it's been a deadlock of intense combat, and it doesn't feel like it's going to end. As the swarm of Zubats finally break through the Thunder Shock Metal Sound combination, they now swarm and attack Luxio and Shieldon. With things feeling meek, Gary goes to grab his Pokeballs and make a run for it. However, just as things are looking at their bleakest, a cry for Aura Sphere is accompanied by a blue ball of energy hitting the swarm of bats and exploding, knocking them all out. Turning, Gary and Rourke spot a man wearing a blue suit and a hat with a Pokemon stood beside him Rourke identifies as Lucario. With the powerful reinforcements now present, both poachers turn their attentions to capturing the much rarer and stronger Lucario. However, before they can turn their Pokemon to attack Lucario, a combination of Iron Head and Rock Smash from the formerly extinct Pokemon knock out two Poacher and cause the poachers to realise they have lost the advantage they once had. So, throwing down a flashbang, they call for a retreat, and manage to do so. Now the coast being clear, Gary and Rourke fall back onto the ground, Gary panting for air as all his Pokemon do the same, while Rourke comforts Cranidos, telling it how it did such a good fight. This new person runs up, introducing himself as Riley, while handing out berries to all of the boys' tired Pokemon, before offering a hand to help each of them up, telling them that he doesn't think they'll be coming back anytime soon, but advises they at least get to Hearthome City as fast as they can, since it's only a day away from here. Both thank him for the help, asking how he found them, since they are relatively off the beaten track, to do some training. And Riley admits he had sensed their aura by accident while he was searching for a missing Riolu, asking if the pair had seen one with a possible arm injury. Both boys shake their head, apologising that they can't help, but offer to try and help, spending the day searching around for them. But Riley refuses, reminding them how all of their Pokemon are very fatigued and could do with a proper look over by Nurse Joy. Plus, from what he can tell, they're both exhausted as well, and could truly do with a night's rest in an actual comfortable bed. The pair go to argue, saying that they would be fine with just a couple of hours rest, but Riley refuses, admitting that from what he understands, this mission needs to be done alone. The Riolu he's searching for was wrongly exiled, so he wants to try and return it home as fast as possible, but to do so he would have best odds if he was travelling alone, since their aura will interrupt his ability to sense energy. The pair argue once more, and finally Riley agrees that he will give them his number, or at least the number to his grandfather, just in case they do find anything they can call in. Gary writes down the number before going again to argue. However, finally, the trainers agree that this is the best course of action before heading their separate ways, as Gary and Rourke make double time towards Hearthome City, for their own safety, but also to get their teams fully healed. Meanwhile, in a very different situation, we find Ash and Zoe watching two separate trees that have been slathered in honey, having been told this is a good way to encounter some rare Pokemon. Zoe having won the honey during her last contest in Feroma Town. We cut back to see Zoe and Glameow doing their new routine. As Glameow lands onto contest field, the cat begins to cut up waves of sand all around using Sand Attack. Once the battlefield is completely covered, making it look like a sandstorm is active, jolts of lightning begin to appear from every direction, before slowly honing in and forming a dome around the sand screen. Slowly the sand screen begins to sparkle as grains of sand turns to shards of glass, before finally, when the stage is all but clear of the sand attack, it is in its place, stands Glameow in the middle of a glass dome, where it holds a shadow ball in its mouth, causing a purple glow to emit from the dome, before shattering it by the very same attack, and thanks to this beautiful display of power and precision, Zoe is able to proceed forwards, winning the battle stage thanks to her once again fairly impressive battle skills. With this win, Zoe not only claims her second ribbon, but also some free honey, bringing us back to the present. As both watch the trees for any sign of movement, they feel like they are waiting for a while. In fact, they do. Is even after 5 hours of waiting, not a single Pokemon appears. That is until the 6th hour finally comes around, as both spot movement on either tree. Having learned Ash's goal to capture Pokemon with unique evolution methods, Zoe gives Ash a chance to scan both Pokemon to see if either or neither of them could evolve, but to their surprise both Pokemon seem to have this unique form of evolution, completely based on the Pokemon's gender. Ash is excited to hear this, and Zoe, wanting to show Ash some thanks due to his help of mastering Sand Attack and giving some pointers on how to use Shockwave, she gives him the first choice. Looking at both Pokemon, Ash decides that a grass bug type would really level out his team a bit, so leaving Zoe to capture the bug flying type. Waiting a few seconds until the Pokemon are fully busy slurping down honey, the pair throw Pokeballs at them, and thanks to them being distracted, it allows for a quick and easy capture, with no need for a battle, allowing them to bring out their newest captures straight away, as Ash welcomes Burmy to his team, while Zoe welcomes Combee to hers. As Glameow welcomes Combee to her team with open arms, being very excited for her trainer's first ever capture, Ash has a bit more of an issue. While Gligar is welcoming to Burmy, even if it scares Burmy ever so slightly when it grips down on its hand a little too hard, making Burmy cry, both Riolu and Elekid give the Pokemon a cold introduction, Riolu giving nothing more than a simple nod, while Elekid gives a cold shoulder completely, not even acknowledging Burmy's existence. Ash can feel an annoyance growing for his starter. The Pokemon has been overly stubborn recently, and it trains only alone, refusing to train with any of the other members of his team. Ash has been able to get it to train, however he has to give it his undivided attention whenever he wants to train with Elekid, the Pokemon refusing to spar with anyone. However, it does watch closely whenever Ash and Riolu train together. As for Riolu, Ash isn't having as many issues, while he is still taking things slow to allow Riolu's arms to fully heal after getting scolded by Nurse Joy after everything which happened in the Byron battle. However, as of late, more and more of Riolu's training is getting intense, as its arm is healing more and more. Ash is still trying to avoid using it, but they are making progress on teaching Riolu how to fight with its less dominant hand, and even introducing kicks and other ways to fight with during battle. And thanks to this, Ash often trains late into the night with Riolu. However, unlike Elekid, Riolu is happy to spar against Gligar, or even Glameow if they're available, with Riolu and Gligar even having become quite good friends. It is in these spars Ash is starting to get a weird feeling in the back of his head. It's as if he can feel or maybe even hear Riolu's intention. But the boy just chalks this up to him growing closer with Riolu, so he's better able to guess what his friend is thinking. Now with a new member on his team, Ash spends most of his time focusing on bringing the shy-natured Burmy out of its shell, the Pokemon at first not trusting Ash, but after making some specialised bug-type food, the Pokemon does start to trust the trainer, even hanging off Ash's arm whenever it's out of its Pokeball. And after sweet-talking it with the promise of some honey, Ash even manages to talk the Pokemon into a friendly spar against Zoe's Combee, which the girl is determined to use in an upcoming contest, wanting to see how her newest Pokemon would perform on the scene. It's thanks to this spar that both trainers get better acquainted with their Pokemon, learning how each of them fights, Zoe understanding the moves available to Combee, while Ash starts learning how Burmy prefers a much more defensive fighting style. The pair take the whole journey up to Eterna City, up through Route 205 and through Eterna Forest to bond with these new Pokemon, Ash spending every waking moment he's not travelling training for the upcoming gym battle. Eventually they find themselves in Eterna City Pokemon Center, and while waiting to have his party returned as they are looked over by Nurse Joy, he uses his time to call Professor Oak. The man is happy to hear from his student as the pair spend a few good minutes catching up, and eventually Oak even asks how many gym badges Ash has. When the boy proudly says he's got one, Oak smiles before telling him that Gary's actually on his way to acquire his third gym badge. It seems like he's fallen a little bit behind, the man just teasing Ash, knowing that there's no real frustration here. As the boy does kind of groan, he smiles proudly, happy to hear that his rival is doing so well, and really excited to see how strong Gary has gotten. Ash soon goes on to share all of the cool captures and friends he has made with the journey he's been on, and Oak reports that he's happy Ash is having a good time, and he's actually made himself a very impressive team, and he's very excited to hear how all of them evolve. When hearing Ash has a Burmy, he even offers to actually look at the Pokemon and identify if it's a boy or a girl to give him an idea of what the Pokemon will evolve into. but Ash just says that he doesn't. He wants it to be a surprise. After all, Burmy might not even want to evolve, so he'll wait until the time comes a bit closer to ask Oak for any help. The man respects his decision, happy to see that Ash is growing into a fine trainer. Oak, wanting to ask about Elekid, since it's the one Pokemon he's quite familiar with, is cut off by the sound of Nurse Joy calling for Ash. The boy, hearing his name, bids Oak a quick farewell before heading off to collect his team. Ash wants to get one more night of training in, bringing out his team, but that's when an excited shriek rips through the Pokemon Center as a woman donned in green, sporting a bowl cut, rushes at Ash and his Burmy. The woman can't help but rave about how beautiful Ash's Pokemon is, but before the woman can begin inspecting the Pokemon, Burmy swings its body behind Ash's and hides as much as it can. The woman grumbles something about always scaring Burmese before eventually collecting herself and apologising, introducing herself as Gardenia, the gym leader of this town, apologising once more for her outburst, explains that she just really loves grass types, so she couldn't resist. Ash laughs, saying it's more than fine, but before his brain clicks into place, realising that this woman is the gym leader he is very much here to battle with. As Gardenia manages to lure Burmy out with a smile and some flowery scent which seems to linger around her, and it finally allows the woman to give the Pokemon a better look over, while Ash takes a second to collect his thoughts and use this chance to bring forward his challenge, something Gardenia seems hesitant to do before spotting something and agreeing, admitting that she was actually almost going to call it a day for tonight, since her Pokemon are pretty tired and they could do with a bit of a rest. But she'll accept Ash's challenge on one condition, that he uses his Burmy, since from what she can tell, the Pokemon is so close to evolving, and she just loves watching grass types get stronger. Ash looks shocked at the bug type, asking it if it feels up for a battle. The Pokemon looks shy for a second before giving a nod of its body. Ash smiles at Burmy, thanking it for willing to give it its all, and also being happy that it could be his first ever evolution, pondering if he will get a Wormadam or a Mothim, but Ash doesn't get too long to think about this, as the trio of trainers soon arrive in the Eterna City gym, Gardenia agreeing to hold a 3v3 as Zoe gets into the spectator's booth, watching closely, ready to cheer for Ash, but also to see if he's got any other hidden skills and maybe inspire her for her next contest. Ash, wanted to keep his word, brings out Burmy, with the Pokemon quickly taking cover in the trees and inside the gym. Gardenia can't help but let out an excited shriek as she brings forth her first Pokemon, a Cherrim. The Pokemon hops around happily before the call for battle to begin echoes throughout the room, and Gardenia gives the order of Magical Leaf, sending a barrage of glowing petals towards Burmy in a second. However, Ash, playing to Burmy's strengths, calls for a Protect, wanting to prevent the Pokemon from taking any damage and to bide his time to let Cherrim weaken itself out. However, seeing this, Cherrim is ordered to use Sunny Day, allowing the Pokemon to blossom and to change the battle up in ways Ash is unsure of even yet. With a call of Magical Leaf once again leaving Gardenia's mouth, Ash wants to continue fighting how Burmy likes to, calling for another Protect, only for the move to fail, causing Burmy to be hit by a barrage of these magical infused leaves. The bug type whimpers out at this attack as Ash apologises, but asks if the bug type could keep fighting for a little while longer. The bagworm Pokemon wants to go a bit further, so nods its body as Ash calls for a struggle bug. The bug type energy gathers on Burmy before being fired in colliding with Cherrim's body, weakening it while dealing some good damage. Wanting to push Burmy as far as possible, Gardenia orders Cherrim to use a Weather Ball as her next move, as a glowing white orb glows above Cherrim's body before bursting into flame as it is thrown towards Burmy. Knowing this attack would put Burmy down, is quick to call for another Protect as the flaming orb collides with the shield and bursting off all around it, allowing Ash to return fire with another Struggle Bug, weakening Cherrim that bit more and putting it closer to being unconscious. Gardenia, knowing that she can't keep this up for long and haven't had put any significant damage in yet, she calls for the strongest move she has on hand with a Solar Beam. Cherrim charges the attack fast and fires it even faster as the solar energy flies towards Burmy in an instant. Burmy is quick to use Protect to try and save itself, but due to being empowered by the constant power of this fake sun, it begins to break the defensive shield down, and soon bursts through it. And while the damage dealt to Burmy is minimum, when Gardenia calls for one more Weather Ball, Ash, knowing that Protect will still be unavailable, in a moment of fear, quickly switches his newest capture out and calls out his first capture in Elekid. The plug Pokemon is brought out to the battlefield and hit directly by the fiery infused Weather Ball. The Pokemon grunts in pain but shoots its trainer a look, informing Ash it's okay, all before attacking its opponent with a shockwave at the command of its trainer. The plug Pokemon releases a wave of lightning, hitting Cherrim and putting it out cold, as it is now unable to battle. Elekid turns its body back, giving its trainer a thumbs up as Ash cheers out in victory. Gardenia pouts that Ash didn't keep Burmy out, grumbling as she brings out Turtwig. Before Ash can bring out his next Pokemon, Elekid begins charging up its energy with a cry of its name, lightning sparking around it. Ash, seeing this, asks Elekid what it's doing, making Elekid grumble confusedly as it gestures towards Turtwig as if telling its trainer that it's already beat a Turtwig before, it wants to do so again. But Ash shakes his head, saying that he knows he can beat a Turtwig, so he wants to give Riolu a chance at fighting one. Plus, Riolu is a bit physically stronger, so even though both of their moves will be resisted, Riolu's will hit a bit harder. The plug Pokemon looks on in disbelief at its trainer. Ash goes to promise Elekid that it can take part in the next gym battle and fight whichever Pokemon it wants, but the plug Pokemon has already recalled itself before Ash can even have a chance to explain anything. Ash feels a pit of guilt growing in his stomach and is about to bring Elekid back out, but when the ref calls for his next Pokemon, Ash is forced to go with his first pick in Riolu. Riolu coming out of its Pokeball with a nod to its trainer before turning to its opponent. Ash calls for a quick attack to start off the battle with a rush of speed, but Turtwig is surprisingly fast for a turtle and hides in its shell using Withdraw, neglecting most if not all of the damage. With Riolu jumping back, a Razor Leaf is fired upon it, and the blade-like leaves cut into Riolu's skin, making the Pokemon whimper. Ash, wanting to weaken the attacks, calls for a bulk up, the added defense keeping Riolu in better fighting shape before firing off a vacuum wave, hitting the turtle as it jumps into its shell, reducing the damage it takes once again, before once more firing back with Razor Leaf, with Ash countering like he did before with another bulk up. However, this time he has a devilish grin on his face, calling for another quick attack, closing the distance between Turtwig and Riolu, but as Turtwig ducks into its shell, Ash grins, calling for a full power Force Palm to send the turtle flying. Thanks to the two previous bulk ups and Riolu's naturally high physical strength, the turtle Pokemon is sent flying into the nearby forest, bouncing off the trees like a ping pong ball, as Ash grins watching the turtle go colliding from tree to tree, each collision causing massive amounts of damage to the turtle. Ash, wanting to use this time while Gardenia tries to correct her partner, calls for more bulk ups, wanting to get Riolu as strong as he possibly can. Gardenia panics for a second, but before having an idea, telling Turtwig to wait for her word and then jump off the tree and use Bite on Riolu. The Pokemon does so, waiting a second before Gardenia eventually calls for now. The Pokemon appears out of its shell, kicking off the tree, and having used the built up momentum to bounce, bites into Riolu's right arm, delivering a very powerful attack that causes Riolu to scream out in pain. Ash in an instant jumps onto the battlefield. The rules can be damned, but a voice shouts out no, stopping Ash for a second as he tries to identify the source of this voice, before locking eyes with Riolu, and having been given the chance it needs, fires off a Force Bomb into Turtwig's head, getting it off its arm and knocking it out of the battle. Following this quick gesture, Riolu gives its trainer a small thumbs up, but Ash is already on the battlefield, running over to Riolu and checking over it, panicking, but soon figures out that the use of multiple bulk ups had increased Lucario's muscle density so much that it protected the bone, and it was just the shock of the damage that scared Lucario and caused it to scream out in pain. Breathing out a sigh of relief, Ash returns Riolu, thanking it for doing so great in the battle, but telling it that he's taking no more risks with it today, so he'll be recalling it and forfeiting it from the battle. Riolu nods while looking a bit miffed, as Gardenia accepts this as Ash recalls Riolu, telling it to rest, before heading back to his side of the box, realising he probably should have just kept Elekid out. But not having time to regret his decisions, Gardenia grabs the boy's attention by bringing out her last Pokemon, a Roserade. Now back in the battle, Ash brings out Elekid. However, he hears someone saying no again, causing a moment of pause. He tries to recognise this voice, but it's different from the last one. However, before he can even think more on this, Elekid has recalled itself. Ash is confused and quickly tries to bring his partner back out, but the Pokemon spends even less time on the battlefield, its feet hardly touching the ground before it is once again back inside its Pokeball, causing Elekid to be disqualified and leaving Ash very, very confused at what is going on right now. Gardenia, seeing this, sternly looks at Ash, knowing her job as a gym leader is to punish a trainer like him. From what she can gather about the whole Riolu incident, it was an injured Pokemon which shouldn't be seeing a gym battle for a while. But also it looks like one of his Pokemon has become disobedient throughout this battle. It's a confusing moment for her, as she knows that as a gym leader she should definitely punish him, but he also needs guidance. so she plans to scold him and give him a guiding word after this battle is done. But Ash, left now just with Burmy, shouts out that he's counting on him, all the while looking shaken, as Burmy echoes its trainer, still seeming a bit shook up from the last attack it almost received, but tries to stay strong, seeing Ash is in a similar mindset. Starting the fight with another struggle bug, Roserade here is quick to counter with a dazzling gleam. The burst of fairy energy is not only enough to push back and destroy the struggle bug, but also enough to send Burmy crashing from its tree and nearly knocking the Pokemon out. As Burmy is now laid out on its back, Roserade fires off a sludge bomb in hopes to finish this battle, but Burmy is able to at least put up a protect. The attack is still broken and chipped in areas from the previous solar beam, having not had enough time to fully reform the protect shield. However, the broken variation of this attack is at least enough to stop the damage from hitting Burmy directly, but it's clear the bug type is running out of steam. Gardenia, seeing the weak state of Protect and Burmy, continues to shout for sludge bombs, telling Roserade to not stop until that shield and bug are both out. Ash cheers out for Burmy, watching as each sludge bomb chips more and more away at the Protect. As it begins to lose strength, a cry from Ash telling Burmy he knows he can do it, so please don't give up. The Pokemon, hearing its trainer cheer for it, feels an urge to push, and just as it begins to glow, its Protect finally breaks. A cloud of purple smoke blinds both trainers from the result of the attack, but a yellow blur flying out of the smoke leaves Ash cheering out with excitement, while Gardenia pulls a sour face, slightly murmuring that she forgot Burmy can do that, as Mothim makes itself known as it soars around the open top of this gym, doing a small little dance which seems to increase its speed. Ash thanks Mothim while going over the Pokemon's two new moves and smiling. One it is already used. Now seeing how to win this battle, Ash orders for another Quiver Dance. The call of this move sends shivers down Gardenia's spine as Mothim begins to dance in the air before firing off a much more powerful struggle bug. Roserade is no longer able to prevent this attack with a dazzling gleam, the attack being ripped through as Roserade's body is bombarded by the bug type energy attack, made worse by the fact that any of Roserade's following special moves are now much weaker. Roserade tries to bring Mothim back down to the battlefield with a magical leaf, but Mothim counters this with a powerful gust, cutting through the leaves and slamming it into Roserade, nearly knocking it off its feet. As the powerful gust continues to deal more and more damage to Roserade, it seems like Mothim might win in this instance, but that's when Mothim suddenly flinches up as it is inflicted by the poison which the sludge bomb had caused, revealing that while the evolution had restored some of Mothim's stamina, it's still nearly at the end of its ropes. Gardenia and Ash, seeing this, realise that the next few moves will decide the battle, and Gardenia, wanting the next one to finish it, calls for a solar beam, but thanks to the speed increase coming from Quiver Dance, Mothim avoids this attack, Ash knowing that getting hit by that will spell the end for Mothim. So he begins to hatch a plan where he spots the sunny day orb floating around in the sky, slowly pittering out as its turns to finish come closer and closer. Ash calls for Mothim to fly and wait underneath the orb. Unsure of what is about to happen, Roserade tries firing off another solar beam, but once again Mothim is able to spin and dodge this attack, as after dodging the attack the bug type makes it underneath the fake sun and uses his body to block Roserade from benefiting from the sunny day, now forcing the Pokemon to have to spend more time charging up its next solar beam, time that Ash uses to use one last Quiver Dance, hoping that the boost will be enough, so that when the solar beam is ready to fire and Gardenia gives the order, spotting Mothim flinching from poison, Ash just smiles, telling Gardenia this battle is over, as just before the blast is fired, Mothim moves out of the way of the blinding sun, forcing Roserade to close its eyes ever so slightly, causing the attack to miss Mothim's main body ever so slightly, and only managing to clip one of its wings. The Pokemon is sent flying down towards the ground, but Ash cheers for Mothim to catch itself and finish this battle off with a gust. The Moth Pokemon does as its trainer asks, as it manages to correct its course just before it hits the ground, and with two powerful beats of its wings, sends strong air currents directly into Roserade, sending the Pokemon crashing into the walls of the arena and knocking it out. As Ash is declared the winner, Mothim does victory loop-the-loops before soon coming softly falling to the ground, where it's caught by its trainer, who thanks it for fighting so hard and for being its first evolution. As Ash and Mothim celebrate, they're interrupted by Gardenia, who approaches Ash with a soft smile, which evolves into a stern look after he receives his gym badge. Ash goes to thank Gardenia for the battle. The woman cuts him off and tells Ash that while he might have won the battle and earned the badge, he by no means should have. The boy goes to respond but is cut off by Gardenia, who reminds Ash that he brought a Pokemon with what she could tell must be a pretty serious arm injury to a gym battle of all things, and a Pokemon which he's clearly not meeting the needs of, and refused to battle for him because of it. While she does not know the full story, she knows that Ash has the potential to be an incredible trainer, and it is her job to teach him his mistakes by punishing him for making them, and today she failed due to his Mothim coming through incredibly well for him in battle, reminding Ash that he will not always get as lucky as he did today, and she wants him to look at what he did wrong in today's battle to become a better trainer. But for now, all she can do is encourage him to celebrate his victory, but to make sure he figures out where he went wrong. Hearing Gardenia point out these things makes the sweet taste of victory ever so salty, but for now he smiles, thanking her for an incredible battle, before heading out towards the Pokemon Center, Zoe on his heels giving the boy praise. But while Zoe praises Ash and starts picking apart his battle, looking for anything she can use for any upcoming contests, Ash can't help but fake a laugh while his mind is elsewhere, listening to what Gardenia had said, pondering on what she had said, worrying about what happened with Elekid, and realising how reckless he has been to bring Riolu into the past 2 gym battles. But all he can do now is head to the Pokemon Center and get his team healed, and hope that whatever's going on with Elekid he can solve, much like Gardenia said. Meanwhile, on the other side of the region, just outside of a place Rourke calls the Maniac Ruins, a place where Rourke suspects he might be able to find some fossils hidden in the cave, Gary and Rourke find themselves having a practice battle using Sheldon and Cranidos, Gary even commanding some of his other Pokemon which are currently locked in practice battles against one another, in an attempt to help him better handle dealing with multiple opponents at once, a skill he wishes to develop after his battle he had against those Pokemon poachers. Even with 2 new gym badges in hand, the boy wants to make sure he can defend his own Pokemon, having even brought out some of his unused captures to bring a fresh breath of life to his team. After a long day of fighting, the pair call it quits for the night, ready to set up camp, planning on using the cut through to Maniac Ruins to get back to Hearthome City in order to be back in town for the tag team tournament coming up soon. That's when 2 Pokemon come crashing in from the wilderness, locked in a battle, both clearly injured but smiling, loving the battle they are going through, as a Dragon Rage is swiftly dodged by a dig. This attack, however, hits the 2 young trainers, causing them to shout out in annoyance, asking the Pokemon what they are doing, grabbing the wild Pokemon's attention before jumping up and ready to fight the 2 trainers in front of them, firing off 2 attacks which Cranidos and Magby stop from ever arriving, as Rourke and Gary share a look and begin the battle. A ship hovers in the sky. 2 men walk through the halls, sheepishly muttering to one another about how they're going to play this off to the boss. As soon they enter a room where a woman sits monitoring the rest of her crew as they all work to keep the ship afloat, while finishing a call with an unknown client, promising that she can capture any Pokemon he desires, but for a species as rare as the Lapras line, especially in the Sinnoh region, he will have to pay up front. However, if he's interested, she has a very special offer at the minute. She can get him any Riolu or Lucario, various level, age, any of the interesting things that he would care about if he's interested, knowing that son of his likes his Pokemon, and they are very rare species. Before the voice can ever respond, the woman spots her 2 lackeys, her natural tone and face shifting, as her voice now growls out an apology, explaining that she will call back her partner as something has come up which she needs to deal with. Ending the call with venom drenching from every word, she asks her men, "Where are the fossils?" That's where we're going to leave this part for now. And just for those who are still here, who have issues with how things were handled, while there was a pop-up in the middle of the episode, I do need to remind people that this is not our canon Ash. This is Ash who had spent years training with Professor Oak. This has changed the way he thinks, so if this Ash is acting differently to how you think Ash would act, it's true. The story has changed him, and that's kind of the point of What Ifs. I only say this because I was unsure if I liked how I had Ash acting here, but the more I thought about it, the fact is that he would probably think more logically, which obviously will cause some issues. But that all being said, there's more time for things to unfold, and I just want everyone to know that I hope you have a good day or a great night, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye for now, guys.